Serving others. Rule 12. Guidelines for traveling the spiritual path according to the teachings of Alice Bailey. Video by Dr. Lisa Love. Group 7. Probationary Disciple. This is the 12th of 14 rules found in the Alice Bailey book, Initiation Human and Solar, that those who are connected to Bailey's Group 7, Probationary Discipleship stage, are meant to follow. These rules are only recommendations, but if followed, they will help you along the spiritual path to have fewer difficulties as you progress. Remember, it is important as much as possible to not skip steps and to do the inner work to make sure you are walking the talk. Rule 12. Let the disciple learn the use of the hand in service. Let him seek the mark of the messenger in his feet, and let him learn to see with the eye that looks out from between the two. As a reminder, if you've been following these rules, the book Initiation Human and Solar that these rules are from was written in the early 1900s when the male pronoun was all that was used. Don't let that distract you, just let that fact go, and let's focus on the commentary from the book, pages 206 to 207. This rule looks easy of interpretation upon the first reading, and seems to enjoin upon the applicant the use of the hands in service, or the feet upon hierarchical errands, and the development of clairvoyance. But the real meaning is much more esoteric. Occultly understood, the use of the hands is a utilization of the chakras for centers in the palms of the hands in healing bodily ills, blessing and thus curing emotional ills, raised in prayer, or the use of the centers of the hands during meditation in the manipulation of mental matter and currents. These 3 points will bear careful consideration, and much may be learnt by Occidental, that means Western, students from the study of the life of Christ and a consideration of his methods in using his hands. More cannot be said here, as the subject is too vast to be enlarged upon in this brief commentary. The mark of the messenger in the feet is a reference to that well-known symbol of the wings on the heels of Mercury. So before I go into my commentary on this, let's just highlight a few things. That this has to do with the centers in the palms of the hand to heal bodily ills, to bless and thus cure emotional ills, to be raised in prayer, or the use of the centers in the hands during meditation and the manipulation of mental matter and currents. And you see the picture here with a Tibetan monk manipulating the hands in various mudras or hand gestures. We also find out that the mark of the messenger has something to do with the symbolism of the wings of the heels of Mercury, and we'll go into that commentary to expand upon this understanding more shortly. Let's continue with the commentary from the book Initiation Human and Solar. Much upon this subject will be revealed to students in occult schools, that means occluded or knowledge that is hidden. Those who are studying hidden knowledge are in occult schools, who will gather together all that can be found concerning the messenger of the gods, and who also will study with care information which astrological students have gleaned anent the planet Mercury, and which occult students have gathered concerning the inner round. On the surface, the expression, the eye which looks out from between the two, seems to signify the third eye which clairvoyants utilize, but the meaning is very much deeper than that, and lies hidden in the following facts. A. That the inner vision is that which all self-conscious beings, from a logos to a man, are in the process of developing. B. That the ego, or higher self, is literally to the monad what the third eye is to man, and therefore is described as looking out from between the monad, or spiritual self on the one hand, and the personal self on the other. And note, when this was written, ego and egoic meant soul, not someone who is selfish in the way that the word is used today. In the fullest sense, therefore, this rule incites the applicant to develop self-consciousness and thus learn to function in the causal or soul body on the higher levels of the mental plane, controlling from thence all the lower vehicles and seeing clearly all that can be seen in the three worlds, in the past and in the future. Highlighting some of this, gleaned and net the planet Mercury. So the planet Mercury has something to do with our understanding. We'll also comment more on the inner round shortly. Also, we're adding the use of the third eye, the hand in service, the mark of the messenger Mercury in the feet, the eye or third eye that looks out from between the two, that produces the inner vision, that is like the ego or higher self, and that third eye acts literally to the monad what the third eye is to man, that the ego or higher self acts literally to the monad what the third eye acts to man, and that it helps us develop self-consciousness and thus learn to function in the causal body on the higher levels of the mental plane. So let's go into my commentary on this. So this is my commentary. Let's first look at the hands. Hands can be used in many ways. At the simplest level, hands grasp or take and release and give. As a meditation, it is important to examine what kinds of things we give and take for ourselves or for others. We can also look at the quality of how we give and take. For example, do we give something to someone with ulterior motives and expectations for what that person should give us back? That's coming from the personality or selfish level. It's the hands manipulating while hiding our true motives. Or do we give freely as souls, as the ego, capital E, and the higher self? As we give, what is the quality of our giving? What thoughts and emotions are involved? And what is the spiritual intention or lack of it that's involved? When that spiritual intention is high, the thoughts are helpful and pure, the emotions are kind and loving, the hands release healing, awakening, and powerful energy. That energy can even be expressed as the power to bless and beautify or bestow a beatitude on others. So here's a little key here of how we need to learn spiritually to use our hands. We need to be sure that the spiritual intention is high, our thoughts are helpful and pure, the emotions are kind and loving, and only when that is in place can the hands truly release what we want them to release, healing, awakening, and powerful energy. So that is the way that the disciple learns to use the hands. We can also learn to focus the energy in our hands through certain hand gestures, I've already said this, known as mudras, that trigger the mind and emotions to act in a certain way. Sometimes we use a certain mudra or hand gesture to remind ourselves that we need to act a certain way, and sometimes we don't need to remind ourselves, it's just automatic and we use them already in the way they're meant to be used. The more effective one becomes at this, the more energy these mudras transmit for helping others. Next, let's examine the feet. As for feet, they represent motion or the lack of it. They indicate the direction we're walking towards in our lives. They also determine where we plant our feet and decide to take a stand, the things we stand under, or how well we understand something. Or perhaps feet represent that we stop walking and it's time to rest. Spiritually, it is important to reflect upon where our feet are taking us every day, how they support our understanding of anything, and how much all of this is serving our spiritual practice and those we serve. In many spiritual traditions, we find the tradition of touching the feet of a spiritual master when we greet them. This shows that we are willing to be humble and gain understanding from them. In the Christian tradition, Pope Francis has a regular practice of washing the feet of prisoners and the destitute, imitating the practice of Jesus. In this case, it shows how the spiritual master likewise shows humility and indicates the need to understand another person. Continuing with the feet. Now let's briefly examine the statement about Mercury and the connection to the inner round found in the Initiation Human and Solar Commentary. In Roman mythology, the god Mercury was said to have wings on his feet, implying a swiftness to act, ideally to help others. The substance Mercury, we also know, is quick. That's why it's often called quicksilver, as it seems to almost effortlessly leap from one spot to the next. This is similar to what Einstein called spooky action at a distance, where quantum particles tend to jump seemingly invisibly from one place to the next. Mercury at times can also be connected to thought, implying that our thoughts are quick to think and ideally to move spiritually to help others. As for Mercury and the connection to the inner round, the phrase inner round in the Bailey Book Treatise on Cosmic Fire, page 1164, is connected to the centers, both major and minor, and the distribution of force throughout the centers and the etheric body as a whole. We saw that reference to the centers in the Initiation Human and Solar Commentary as well. The eye, or Ajna center, is a major center, but there are also minor centers in the hands and feet. In fact, there are said to be 21 minor centers in the body and even more minute centers. A clue seems to be given here about needing to learn how to distribute energy through both the major and minor centers. In the yoga tradition, one of the most important nerve currents in the body is that which connects the eye, hands, and feet. As we see through the eye, that which needs to be healed, the yogi, through an act of will, moves the energy current into the hands, which are then manipulated in such a way the negative mental impulses that activate the motor nerves in the eye, hands, and feet are removed. The motor nerves in the eye, hands, and feet are then redirected so that they flow into the spiritual currents, helping the person think and act in a more spiritual way. So there's a little clue when you see some of those Tibetan yogis manipulating their hands in certain ways, what they may be doing, especially if you're spiritually illuminated and know what you're doing and have the right attitude, frame of mind, feet and hands moving in the right direction with true spiritual intention to do it correctly. Jumping to another source, traditional theosophical teachings, coming from Annie Besant and Charles Ledbetter in the book Man, Whence, How, and Whither. When I did a search on what the inner round might mean in traditional theosophy, I found a quote where they said that the inner round is a place to which egos or souls in a transition state can be transferred for special treatment in order to quicken their evolution. So there we have this kind of inner round Mercury thing about quickening the pace again going on here. In the book The Inner Life, Volume 2 by Charles Ledbetter, it says that under certain conditions of strong desire for advancement, the ego or soul may be separated from the great masses of his fellows on this planet and pass by the authorities into what is called the inner round, and may take his next incarnation amongst the limited population of Mercury, which is globe E of our Earth scheme. It's not the planet Mercury per se, it's Mercury in globe E in this planet. So we continue to have this idea of Mercury quickening the pace of the spiritual evolution, being quick to act, being quick to understand, being quick to move in a spiritual way to help others. Now let's look at the eye. The eye that looks out from between the two is a reference to the third eye. This eye taps us into the intuition that helps us see clearly. Clairvoyance means clear seeing the reality of any situation. Once we see clearly, the eye connects us back to the wing god Mercury. Only now these wings can refer to the two wings or petals that make up the symbol of the third eye seen below in blue. Essentially, all of this is an indication that we are meant to see where we are of best use in service, traveling on the wings of the soul. And then, like the element Mercury or quicksilver, for that which the Roman god is named, we move speedily in that direction to be of assistance. So the disciple or probationer disciple is learning to see clearly and quickly what is needed in the way of service, and to use their feet to move rapidly in that direction, as well as to use their thoughts to move rapidly from a soul level to heal in that direction by knowing how to give and receive in the right way, channeling the energy through the third eye and the major and minor centers in the hands and feet. Combining the eye, hands, and feet together, then, what we discover is that they create a five-pointed star. One point is the head or eye. Put on the pointer and kind of show you that here. Here we have the head. And don't pay attention to these planetary symbols. I don't know if these are correct or not associations, so we do see Mercury with one of the feet here. So we have 1 point is the head. 2 points of the five-pointed star are the arms or the hands. 2 points are the legs or the feet. The five-pointed star is a symbol of the soul. When it points upright, we are doing things in a spiritual way. When it points the opposite direction, we are doing things in a material way, coming from the selfish personality instead of from the selfless of service soul. The rule then is giving us the practical instruction of how being of service to others in the right way speeds the probationary disciple on the path to soul infusion. So there you have a quick summary of that rule. If you enjoy this video, then support this work. If you do, you will help us to finish this series of books and do more videos. And if you become a patron at patreon.com/soul2spirit, you will get copies of charts, books, and an inside look into our process and what's next. You can also visit the website soul2spirit.com for more info. Enjoy this YouTube channel, subscribe, like, comment, share. Giving credit where it's due, this video was created and narrated by me, Dr. Lisa Love. The Pure of Heart music that you hear in the background was licensed for use from royalty-free-meditation-music.com. Photos purchased from 123rf.com. Thanks for watching.